I'll also point out just age and stress, not chewing some of these lifestyle measures you mentioned, that could be enough to create the bloating. As we know, the infections are going to drive some of this too. So it's kind of like chicken or the egg. And it is possible that just age alone, by the time you're 40, 50, 60 beyond, you're going to be making less stomach acid. Look at Dr. Wright's book. He had an amazing graph in there, age and stomach acid levels. So if you're one of the lucky few that are 40, 50, 60 with no gut infections, you simply just have an age induced low stomach acid. Well, that's cool. But the low stomach acid will eventually drive some sort of infection, right? Because now you've got this fermentation and putrefaction of the food. So even if you're like somehow magically clear on stool or urine and you just have low stomach acid, it won't be that way forever. Eventually stuff will pop up.
110%. Now, everything is connected, right? So of course, if we have fungal overgrowth and bacterial overgrowth, well, that can affect stomach acid, but now that also can affect motility. And so if we have slower motility, right, on the faster motility side, like diarrhea and such, that can maybe cause a little bit of bloating, but tends to be more on the slower stool side because the stool is just sitting in your intestines longer and maybe getting compacted. Maybe it's taking you 2 to 3 days to kind of move that stool out. That may give you a sense that you're feeling more bloated more as well. So I would say now the slower motility potentially caused by the bugs, caused by the HCl, could now start to increase that feeling of bloat.
Yeah. So you're saying like you're literally just full of poop as opposed to the infections or releasing gases, which make you feel full, but that's a different type of bloat. So that's kind of a good distinction there.
Yeah. It could just be a combination of everything. You got a little food baby inside of you,
Yeah.
That's possible. Next, I would say adrenal stress. And so adrenal stress, the adrenals are part of the stress handling system that helps your body manage stress, whether it's through making adrenaline to help your body like get the spider senses going so you can deal with that stress. It could be just chronic low grade stress where you're making a lot of cortisol and or you're chronically inflamed from foods and emotional stressors and maybe even physical stressors where the adrenals are just really over ramped up and that's activating that sympathetic nervous system. And so you have that seesaw, right? And sympathetic's the fight or flight. That's the go, go, go. That's the gas pedal. The brake is the parasympathetic. They're on a seesaw. So it's hard to like double clutch, and have hit the gas and the brake at the same time. So usually if the sympathetics are up, the paras are down. If the parasympathetics up, the sympathetics down. And the parasympathetic is the rest and digest. That's the vagus nerve, right? People are like, oh, gargle, sing, right? Well, those may be palliative things, but how about just fix the stress in your food, in your emotional life, in your physical life? Work on that first, because that's going to make a huge difference. And of course, gluten and processed sugar and inflammatory foods and foods that are nutritionally deficient can all drive that kind of stress as well.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, let me piggyback off that then. So you've got the food adrenal connection, but how about just the food connection in general? I mean, if you've got dairy in the system, you've got gluten in the system, you're going to affect the tight junctions in the gut. So you're going to maybe contribute to leaky gut, but also you may have some bloating from that. Now, there are enzymes. I know you and I, we manufacture some custom enzymes and things that can contain what's called DPP4, which is an enzyme that can help break down gluten. There's also some allergy enzyme type formulas that we use where we can break down the occasional instance of all these types of proteins, dairy protein and soy protein, if people are getting exposed to it. But food allergies are a big one. So I know you and I talk a lot about good quality meats, good quality fats, organic veggies and such. But if you haven't got your diet boring before, I think I would go boring. I mean, look at me. I'll do like a grass-fed steak and a handful of blueberries for breakfast and I feel great. So for me, I would just recommend really simplifying, trying to get your foods in isolation where you know what you're reacting to. For example, let me use my wife as a story. So we were doing swapples, which are awesome. It's like a healthy waffle. It's yucca based. And she thought those were affecting her stomach, but she was also doing organic coffee and she was doing eggs and she was doing pastured sausage or bacon. I'm like, okay, well, you got too many foods in here. We don't know what it is. So we got down to elimination and then boom, we figured out it was the coffee affecting the gut. It wasn't the food after all. Even the eggs, which are a super common trigger, were no problem. So I think you got to dial the food allergies, the food sensitivities in, just try to eat your food in isolation, maybe do a food journal, even on your phone. You could do an app. Like I use Daybook a lot to take notes and you could just make a note. Hey, eggs hurt my tummy today, or eggs got me bloated. And then you can figure out what it is.
Absolutely.